So the WNBA decided it wanted to share a stat, and it basically shared what I'm going to be real here is the most pointless stat in history. So it is a gravity stat. I don't know how gravity is calculated.
You just heard it. The WNBA rolled out something called a gravity stat, and our expert calls it the most pointless stat in history. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't just a casual dismissal. It's a fundamental critique of data that offers no real insight. Imagine poring over numbers, trying to understand player impact, only to find metrics that defy common sense. This gravity stat claims to quantify how much a player pulls defenders out of position, influencing the game without even touching the ball. Sounds revolutionary, right? But the problem isn't the concept. It's the execution. When the very method of calculation is opaque and the results are nonsensical, it undermines the entire purpose. It creates more questions than answers, leading to widespread skepticism, and frankly a lot of anger among fans and analysts alike. This wasn't just a misstep. It was a stumble heard around the basketball world. But how bad could it really be? Hold on tight, because what you're about to hear might make your blood boil. The WNBA, a league we all love and want to see succeed, just dropped an official stat that isn't just confusing, it's an insult. An insult to the game, to its legends, and most critically, to the very stars driving its explosive growth. Players like Caitlin Clark. While haters gleefully twisted this data, painting a false narrative, the truth is far more ridiculous than you can imagine. This isn't just about a stat, it's about the WNBA's baffling missteps and how they inadvertently fuel the very negativity they claim to despise. We're diving deep into the WNBA's gravity stat, the internet's furious reaction, and why this seemingly harmless data point became a battleground for Caitlin Clark's critics, and a source of utter frustration for her fans. What exactly did the WNBA post that sent everyone into a frenzy?
Has got better gravity than... I'm just going to look in the NBA. So, you have to scroll to page 2 to get to Stephen Curry, and there's 50 players per page. Sorry. Yeah, there's 50 players per page, and you have to scroll to page 2 to get to Stephen Curry.
You heard that right. Duncan Robinson, a respectable shooter, apparently possesses more gravity than Stephen Curry, the man who redefined offensive spacing. And Curry? You have to scroll through 100 other players just to find him on this so-called gravity list. This isn't just an anomaly, it's a red flag waving furiously. Stephen Curry, widely regarded as the ultimate gravity player, the one who forces defenses to collapse and scramble just by crossing half-court, is barely registered on this metric. This isn't a debate, it's a mathematical error in the eyes of any basketball purist. The stat isn't just flawed, it's actively misleading, creating a parallel universe where basketball's fundamental truths are turned upside down. It fundamentally misunderstands the concept it claims to measure. How can a stat be taken seriously when it sidelines the very definition of what it's supposed to measure? WNBA, in its effort to seem innovative, appears to have embraced a metric that even the NBA can't make sense of. We're talking about a stat so flawed, it renders legends practically invisible. This isn't a minor tweak, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a player impactful. It's like measuring a chef's skill by how many times they chop an onion, completely ignoring the taste of the dish. What does this mean for the players who genuinely command defensive attention? It means their true impact is being diluted, obscured by a number that champions the unexpected, often at the expense of the undeniable. This creates a vacuum where false narratives can flourish, especially for players like Caitlin Clark, whose every move is scrutinized. Why would a league greenlight something so demonstrably bizarre? Is this really the future of basketball analytics?
Malik Monk, Tim Hardaway Jr. I'm going to list all the players that have, list all the very noticeable players that according to the NBA have greater gravity than, I'll even say, than Nikola Jokic.
This list of players, many of whom were talented but certainly not known for their defensive magnetism, having greater gravity than Nikola Jokic, is where the absurdity truly peaks. Jokic, a triple-double machine and reigning Finals MVP, commands the defensive attention of entire teams, often forcing opponents to double and triple team him, opening up opportunities for his teammates. Yet, according to this gravity stat, he's outranked by players who simply do not exert that level of defensive pull. This isn't just a discrepancy, it's a complete inversion of reality. It's a stat that punishes the truly great for their actual greatness, by making their impact seem less significant than that of role players. This isn't just bad analytics, it's an insult to the intelligence of basketball fans and the hard-earned reputations of these elite athletes. Could this WNBA version be any different? The implications here are enormous, especially when the WNBA attempts to adopt such a flawed metric. If the NBA's version of this stat is already this broken, what does it say about its application in a league striving for credibility? This isn't just about individual players, it's about the entire perception of strategic impact. When a stat suggests that a role player has more gravity than an MVP, it doesn't just confuse, it undermines the very intelligence of the audience. Fans, who spend countless hours analyzing games, see through this immediately. This discrepancy isn't just a funny anecdote, it's a testament to how easily data can be misused or misinterpreted, especially when it's divorced from the actual on-court reality. It's not just a bad stat, it's a weapon in the hands of those who seek to diminish the true stars of the game. What other absurdities does this gravity stat reveal?
AJ Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., Simone Fontecchio, Cam Spencer, Corey Kispert, Bryce Sensabaugh, Quentin Grimes, Matas, Modi Mooses, Vit Krejci, Trey Johnson, both Champagne.
The parade of names continues. A baffling collection of players who, while undoubtedly skilled, are not typically seen as defensive black holes. These aren't the players that make coaches lose sleep trying to game plan against their gravity. Their presence on this list, above a two-time MVP, highlights the fundamental flaw in the metric. It suggests that the gravity stat isn't measuring what we think it's measuring, the magnetic pull that bends defenses to a player's will. Instead, it seems to be capturing something entirely different, something perhaps related to movement, specific offensive sets, or even defensive schemes that simply switch rather than collapse. Whatever it is, it's not gravity in the traditional basketball sense. This isn't just confusing, it's actively misleading for anyone trying to understand player impact. What is the stat even trying to measure, if not the obvious? The danger here is not just the immediate confusion, but the long-term erosion of trust. When official league statistics are this divorced from observable reality, fans start questioning everything. It creates a fertile ground for haters to spread misinformation, twisting these nonsensical stats to downplay the achievements of true superstars. Imagine someone using this data to argue that Caitlin Clark's impact is overstated because her gravity score isn't through the roof. It would be a disingenuous argument, fueled by flawed data. This is why the WNBA's adoption of such a confusing metric is so problematic. It hands ammunition to those who want to discredit the league's biggest names. Is it any wonder fans are furious when their beloved stars are made to look less impactful by questionable numbers? The damage isn't just to the stat's credibility, it's to the league's narrative. And the list of Jokic's superiors keeps getting weirder.
You got Ben Shepherd and Reed Shepherd. Patrick Williams has more gravity than Nikola Jokic. Good to know. Ilyana Rupert's brother, Ryan Rupert, has more gravity than Nikola Jokic. Jose Alvarado has more gravity than Nikola Jokic. City Sissoko has more gravity than Nikola Jokic.
Another jaw-dropping revelation, Patrick Williams, a developing player, and even several relatively unknown names are ranked with more gravity than Nikola Jokic. This isn't just a quirky stat, it's a complete disconnect from reality. The fundamental understanding of gravity in basketball is about how a player forces defensive adjustments due to their scoring threat, playmaking, or sheer presence. Jokic embodies this. He dictates the pace, the passing lanes, and the defensive strategy of every opponent. To suggest others have more gravity is to redefine the term into meaninglessness. This isn't just an analytical failure, it's an insult to the concept of basketball intelligence. It's fueling the fire for those who seek to downplay the obvious impact of genuine superstars. Why would any league embrace data that so brazenly contradicts common sense? The more names we hear, the more evident it becomes that this gravity stat is operating on a different plane of existence. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree, and then ranking the fish based on how high they got. The metric itself is designed for something other than its stated purpose. This directly impacts the WNBA, because if they adopt a similar methodology, we're going to see Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Aya Wilson potentially ranked below players who are simply not drawing the same level of defensive attention. This isn't just a theoretical problem, it's a very real threat to how fans perceive player value and the narrative surrounding the league's burgeoning stars. It risks giving ammunition to those who want to diminish the true impact of these generational talents, feeding into the hater narrative that Caitlin Clark and others are somehow overrated. What other bizarre rankings does this stat produce?
Curry is currently not on the list, but apparently Steph Curry, even when he played all his games, Stephen Curry was still something like 30th in the league. 30th in the league in gravity, even when he was playing before he got hurt.
Here's the kicker. Stephen Curry, the man whose shooting threat forces defenses to guard him from half court, the player who invented the gravity we talk about today, was ranked 30th in the league, even before his injury. 30th. This isn't just an oversight, it's a catastrophic miscalculation. It reveals that whatever the stat is measuring, it's not the defensive attention, the pulling power, or the strategic impact that Curry so demonstrably provides. This stat is broken beyond repair. It's not just inaccurate, it's an affront to basic basketball knowledge. It's like saying the sun has less gravitational pull than a pebble. This isn't just a minor statistical flaw, it's a complete failure to capture the essence of offensive impact. How can the WNBA, or any league, justify promoting such deeply flawed metrics? This brings us back to the WNBA and the insulting post in our title. If the league is adopting or promoting metrics that produce such bizarre results, it directly impacts how their own stars are perceived. Imagine the uproar if Caitlin Clark, who consistently draws double teams in box and zone defenses, were to rank low on a WNBA gravity list. It would be a field day for her critics, giving them official data to support their baseless claims. This isn't just about a stat, it's about validating narratives. The WNBA needs to be acutely aware of how its data presentations are interpreted, especially in a landscape where every nuance is scrutinized. This isn't just about numbers, it's about narrative control. What does this mean for another undisputed gravity king, Steph Curry?
This is the most irrelevant stat ever. They're like, measures players who shift defense and change the game with every touch. Like, teams don't guard Kalia Copper. Teams actually don't guard Kalia Copper.
The official definition states it measures players who shift defense and change the game with every touch. Sounds great, right? But then the speaker drops the hammer. Teams don't guard Kalia Copper. This is the brutal, undeniable truth that exposes the stat's core flaw. If a player literally isn't drawing defensive attention, if teams are choosing to leave her open, how can she possibly be credited with shifting defense? This isn't about disrespecting any player. It's about the stat's inherent contradiction. It's promising to measure impact but then assigns high scores to players who are actively ignored by defenses. This isn't just an irrelevant stat, it's a stat that defies the fundamental principles of basketball strategy. Are we really supposed to believe this nonsense? The pattern is clear. This gravity stat completely misses the mark when evaluating truly impactful players. It's a statistic that prioritizes obscure movements over overt defensive manipulation. And this is precisely why its potential application in the WNBA is so dangerous. Imagine the uproar of Aya Wilson, who regularly demolishes defenses, or Angel Reese, who commands incredible attention, or even Caitlin Clark, whose presence alone shifts entire defensive schemes, were to be similarly undervalued by the official league stat. This isn't just an academic exercise. It's a real threat to how these athletes are appreciated. It would provide official data for haters to weaponize, fueling the very debates that distract from the incredible talent and growth of the WNBA. The league must learn from the NBA's mistake and avoid adopting such a misleading metric. What is the stat even claiming to measure then?
The Atlanta Dream, where like, we're actually just gonna let Kalia Copper shoot every single time. They went into a game with a game plan of, we're gonna just let her shoot. We're going to just let her shoot. And they won the game because they decided they were just gonna leave Copper wide open in the corner down the stretch. And they're gonna force Copper to put up some bullshit.
This isn't theory, it's a factual game plan. The Atlanta Dream deliberately decided to let Kalia Copper shoot every single time. And guess what? They won the game. They specifically chose to leave her wide open, forcing her to put up some bullshit, as our expert Blavik puts it. This is the ultimate refutation of a gravity stat that claims to measure defensive shifting. If a team's winning strategy is to ignore a player, then that player has negative gravity, not positive. This real-world example exposes the gaping chasm between this analytical model and actual basketball strategy. It demonstrates that the stat completely fails to capture the true dynamics of defensive attention. It's not just irrelevant, it's actively perverse, rewarding players for being left open. How can any league justify such a misleading metric? The Kalia Copper example is a stark reminder that advanced stats, when flawed, can lead to deeply misleading conclusions. The beauty of basketball is its observable reality, and when numbers fly in the face of what everyone can see, those numbers lose all credibility. The WNBA is in a pivotal moment, with unprecedented viewership and interest. largely fueled by dynamic players like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Aja Wilson. The last thing the league needs is to muddy the waters with analytics that confuse rather than clarify. This isn't just about a stat. It's about protecting the narrative and ensuring that the incredible talent on display is accurately represented. It's about empowering fans, not confusing them. But this gravity stat saga gets even more damning. What happened in a real game where a team actually ignored a player?
But if you're looking at it and you're like, okay, what players really draw the most gravity? Like Aja Wilson, I don't think is top like 50 or something in the stat. What players actually generate the most gravity in terms of like what we deem as gravity? Defensive, and by gravity we normally say defensive, how they help, how they focus in on a player, what we deem as gravity.
Our expert asks the crucial question, what players really draw the most gravity? And he points out that Aja Wilson, one of the WNBA's absolute superstars, likely isn't even in the top 50 of the stat. This is the core issue. What we deem as gravity, the defensive attention, the help defense, the way opponents focus on a player, is completely disconnected from what this stat is measuring. Aja Wilson is a force of nature, an undeniable presence that defenses must account for. Yet this stat seems to overlook her profound impact. It highlights the vast difference between an analytical construct and observable basketball reality. This isn't just a semantic debate, it's about valuing impact. Why are we even discussing stats that can't recognize true greatness? The implications for the WNBA are clear. Adopting a metric like this would be a monumental disservice to its stars. Players like Aja Wilson, who consistently draws multiple defenders, or Caitlin Clark, whose half-court line attempts send defenders scrambling, are the true embodiments of gravity. To present a stat that contradicts this visible reality would not only confuse fans but also inadvertently diminish the very players driving the league's success. It plays right into the hands of those who try to discredit the league and its athletes. This isn't just a bad stat, it's a dangerous one. It threatens to distort the perception of talent and impact, which is especially critical for a growing league trying to establish its narrative. So, if that's not gravity, what is real gravity in basketball?